Yeah, incidentally, all those questions you just said, those are don't ask questions. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about that at the
Okay.
end. Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. I'm so happy to have Joni Caldwell Lerner back on Second Act, the life strategist and motivational coach. My very good friend Joni, thank you so much for
Yay.
joining us again.
Oh, thank you. It's always so much fun. It's a highlight of my week or my month when we do these. So thank you for inviting me. It's literally, I can't wait. So here we go.
Well, again, I always love having you on. Our viewers love you. And today I want to
Oh.
get to an important conversation that we get lots of comments on. And we've done similar videos, but not quite this way. And that is first date topics, what questions to ask and what not to ask. So many people struggle with that. What do you say? What do you talk about on that first date? But before we even get started, I think what's important to understand about the advice we're giving is that these questions need to be part of a conversation and not come across as an interview or something that you got off a list. Joni, what talk to me about that?
Well, I love the word list because it really evokes a response or triggers some people. Because I've coached some people and they come from Second Act TV. Thank you for that, by the way. And they talk about lists and they hate the list. And the minute they see a list, they'll just swipe, whichever way they swipe. In the same way, you don't want to have a laundry list of questions. What's your favorite color? Where do you live? How long have you been there? What did you do for a living? No, you want to have a conversation. You want to be present and you want it to flow back and forth.
Yeah, incidentally, all those questions you just said, those are don't ask questions. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about that at the
Okay.
end. So we're walking in, and that's like the most nervous that we are, with the first
hmm
time that we meet this person, and there he is or there she is, and what do you do?
Well, I would back it up a little bit before I even got to that part. So great question, but start in the car. And we've done this before on some of these segments. You want to go and you feel better. What happens is you calm the nervous system, that limbic system. You just want to calm it so you're present. And then you just want to say to yourself, I'm here to have fun. And then you say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm so glad we're doing this, actually meeting face to face.
So nice to meet you. I'm glad we're doing this. What a great way to open it up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess based on whether or not it's if it's a first date that somebody set up or it's a first date from an online match,
hmm
you have some information already, and that's I think another bit of advice from me is like don't ask questions that are on a list or that you may talk about today that have obviously been covered somewhere else.
What a great point, Silka, because not everything comes from online dating at all. But if you are online dating or if you are being set up by someone, usually I don't know that anyone does a completely blind date anymore. There will be texting. There will be leading up to then a voice conversation. I never ever ever meet anyone. Well, now I don't meet anyone because I'm with someone, but I never would meet anyone without hearing their voice first, without hearing the nuances and the timbre and that sort of information, unspoken information. So take note of what they're saying. If you're really listening, then you have some information, as you said, then you can reference back. And so did you use the boat this weekend?
Yeah.
So you've said I was listening and I'm interested.
Right, exactly. And and really that's a good jumping off point is there it's tough to give advice on what to say initially because everybody's experience or background on getting there is going to be different. But I still
Sure.
love your opening line, which is I'm so glad we're doing this. Not only do you say something totally applicable, you're friendly, you're open, and you're welcoming. Let's get to some of the more specific questions that tell them something about you because you're asking the questions and maybe how you can get more information that you really want to know. And this particular article broke it down into like foundational questions, into questions that make them curious, and then questions to ensure a second date. because you're showing so much interest. With the foundational questions, I'll just read some of them and then you can tell me what you think. What's your week been like so far? What does an ideal weekend look like for you? What's your favorite childhood memory? If you could recommend one book to me, which one would it be? Do you enjoy your work? Where did you, it's that kind of stuff. And incidentally, if you could recommend one book to me, which would it be? I hate that question. I feel like I'm on a job interview. Yes, go ahead and I'll throw it over to you.
So the one I hated was childhood memory.
Yeah.
And because I'm a bookophile, that's probably not a word, because I love reading books, I would love that question. And I would dive right in. So this is really great for everyone to know. Everybody's different. So you need to come from what interests you about asking questions from them.
It's incidentally, these were all the foundational ones. Like one of them is, what's your guilty pleasure? Is that foundational?
I'm not sure I'd go. That actually is an interesting question, but what I loved about it is that here's some foundational questions. So if anybody's a little trepidatious about getting out there, if they have a few of these in their back pocket, mostly I want people to be present. So you don't want to, okay, what was the question I was supposed to ask? You want to have this flow. But I love that there's a foundational thing. They can go through and see which ones resonate with them, because you and I always talk about, take what you like and leave the rest. Everything we say is not going to land with everyone. And that's just, there are 7 billion plus people. So that makes sense to me.
Well, and again, the questions have to fit into what is being discussed. And some people do get hung up on, they'll take advice. And that's why I keep harping on this. You take advice and then just somehow do it. And it's not being implemented right. So that's why I want to keep saying that. It is important how you implement it. The one that I like, I think is a good question. It's foundational. What do you enjoy to do in your free time? Or what does your perfect weekend look like? That gives you a lot of information.
Sure. Or what are your hobbies? And a lot of us are retired. So that gives you a lot of information too. Are they building a greenhouse? Are they fishing? Are they gun aficionados? Are they hikers? And you'll really be able to see the alignment. And some of these you might go, wow, I'm really interested in that. I've never done that before. Or, whoa, what does that mean? So
Exactly.
yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. And I'll link to this so you can read the article. Everybody can read it and judge for themselves on these questions, because we're going through them kind of quickly. The curious ones. What is a surprising fact about you? I don't like that one. What is your best and worst food? Where is the most interesting place you travel to? Do you make your bed in the morning? I like it, but what does that really tell you? Tell me about your best friends. What is your most valuable attribute in a friend? And on and on.
This is so funny, Silka, because you and I are having opposite reactions to some of these questions. And if you look at us, we are very different personalities. And which, it's such a beautiful example of what you were saying, which is critical, which is make these things your own. Okay. Use the ones that resonate and live within you. So read them again really quickly.
Well, the one I said I didn't like is, what is a surprising fact about you? And you went,
I love that. I love that. Yeah. It's like, what would I be surprised to know about you? That's a great question, I think.
Well, but how do you answer that?
I think you say, "Oh, well, I'm a kickboxer. I paint. I do acrylic painting." They don't have to be deep, dark secrets. They can be, what would I be surprised to know about you? So
that's a great point. And I see, like, to your point again, I took that as, tell me something deep and dark. Why did I go there?
No. But so now the bed making one. Here's an interesting fact. So they've done studies, and people who make their beds are far more successful. Successful people make their beds. That was so it'd be interesting if do you make your bed every day? That does give you some information.
It's good to know. I actually make my bed every morning. Every morning, it's the first thing I do. I make my bed. So yay. Here's a question I love, and I actually do that a lot when I interview well, if I'm interviewing somebody about their story, tell me something you're proud of, or what are you most proud of? That is such a
Mm,
great open-ended question, I think, and I've gotten some of the most
yeah.
interesting responses talking about
Yes,
that.
I love that question. We're in agreement on that one for sure.
Yeah.
They can say my grandchildren. They can say I wrote a book. I marched in the, 1960s, whatever. I mean, who knows? This could bring up some really fascinating information.
Yeah. What I found when you ask that question, and like I said, I've asked it hundreds of times in different documentary style production, and the person thinks, it says, gosh, I've never been asked that. And then they
Hmm.
come up with something, they actually think about it. And
Hmm.
it's very engaging and connecting, I think. The surprising date questions to ensure a second date.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
let's hear this.
I think it's maybe a great title more than great advice. But what are you thankful for in life? Yeah, that's good. What's your favorite view? Are you an early bird or a night owl? Who has influenced you the most? What is your proudest accomplishment? Kind of on the same line. I like this. Where and what does home mean to you?
Nice. I like that. I love the view question too, because that'll tell you something about their travels or if they like to travel, where they've been, what fascinates them. And the first one, I like that as well. What was that one?
What are
I'm
you
trying to
thankful?
memorize all of them as you're talking, and I'm like,
I
ah,
know, I know. What are you thankful for in your life?
gratitude. Yeah, because I often tell people when you wake up in the morning, write 5 things that you're grateful for, because it raises your vibration, it raises your energy. Because and gratitude, you cannot be in fear or anger if you're being grateful. So
Yeah. What does your typical day look like? I don't know how that ensures a second date, but I guess that gives you a lot of information. Well, there again, there's it gives you food for thought when you read some of this, and like we talked right here, just with the different responses that we had. Again, we're not here to give all the answers or all the questions in this case, but to get you to think about how you might handle that first date conversation and what a particular question will bring up or not. And again, we'll link to these so you can read and do some of your own research. Before we end, we're starting to come to the end of the segment. I do want to touch on some questions to absolutely not ask on a first date. And I agree with a lot of this. Tell me about your last relationship. I mean, we've covered that ad nauseum. You don't want to start talking about the ex, not on a first date. The anything about politics, overtly sexual. I mean, those are kind of obvious. Do you agree, or do you have a different take on that?
I completely agree. The thing about the politics, I have no judgment one way or the other. How I do have an alignment one way or the other. So being in a relationship with someone who's aligned with kind of my view would be important to me. So that's maybe a question way before you have the conversation or have that first date. I mean, that's just a thought. Now, I also want to say, Silka, you're absolutely right. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the questions. We're here to sort of spark conversation in your own head. And if one of these questions or 10 of these questions work for you, use them or don't use them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just be who you are. It's the most magical thing you can do is be who you are. Not
No,
me,
I
not her.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's one other one that said not to ask, and I go back and forth on this, and this is one thing I actually hadn't heard, and I would never think to ask, but what did you like about me? What made you want to go on a date with me?
What that says to me is one, you're focusing on yourself. Two, there's a little insecurity there. Three, maybe you're a narcissist. I don't know. That's how I feel about that question.
It's funny when I first read it, I thought, well, that would be interesting to know. What is it that what sparked an interest in my profile? What is it? That's the way I took it. But the
Oh,
way you just
interesting.
described it, you're absolutely right. It's all about me, and I think that's the point they make here. That it sounds like you're fishing for a compliment and makes you sound not very confident. And I thought that that
Uh,
was good to point out. I like that. So anyway, I wanted to
yeah.
bring that up. Joni, we kind of been all over the board again, like we usually are. I love
Again,
talking with you.
do
Obviously, I'll
you?
link to all of your information if people want to get a hold of you. I mean, there's lots of people coaching with you now because you are so much fun, have so much great advice. Anything else you want to add
Thank
before we
you.
sign off?
Just remember that it's about the perspective. I can be standing over here and see life this way, and if I do this, suddenly life looks different. Look at where you're looking at life, at dating, at yourself, and choose a more loving and forgiving and all accepting perspective. Okay.
Joni, thank you. And we'll see you again soon on Second Act TV.
I hope so. Okay. Take care.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.